Do you want to play what you're currently watching on the screen? For free? Well, you can. We're launching a free-to-play version of Soul Volume's pre-alpha playtest that you can find on our Patreon, which is even available for our free members. If you like the combat enough, then our full version, which includes an expansive open world and even more flashy combat, is only a $5 membership away. Stay tuned. You know, I think I'm pretty happy with the state of Soul Volume's combat overall. This is some premium flashy shit just like I wanted. But I'll occasionally get the playtester who just loves to absolutely make out with the jump button. If they're able to be up in the air, you can bet your ass that they are not touching the ground if they don't have to. At that point, a part of my soul would crumble a bit, as I knew that my air combat has never quite been up to par with grounded battles. So, let's fix that. Okay, what's the problem here? Well, I can notice hundreds of things that I still want this game to have, but let's avoid any more feature creep than we already have like the plague, and examine the two obvious issues. Number 1, our aerial combos are much shorter than the grounded combos.
Oh, hell no, man.
And why is that? Well, grounded combos can be quite lengthy as long as you're aware of a cornerstone technique in the game called Dodge Combo Storage, or DCS for short. DCS, like many fighting game mechanics, including the existence of a combo itself as an idea, was initially a bug, but I left it in due to it unintentionally expanding the game systems without causing any major issues.
See? You see? Oh, you don't see it?
The same thing occurred during the development of Street Fighter II, which led to the idea of a combo as we know it today, all because of a bug found by complete accident. I'm sure many of the gameplay mechanics that you love in games were found by just absolute coincidence. If I ever encounter a bug in combat, I always check first to see if it's really a new gameplay mechanic in disguise. Dodging is available to the player during any animation at any given point, which cancels the animation instantly. When dodging out of a normal attack, the game will remember the next attack in the combo sequence, letting the player continue their same combo while incorporating evasion. DCS can be performed indefinitely, essentially making grounded combos infinite as long as you time your dodges correctly. Speeding up your DCS input significantly increases the attack speed of sequences and makes your combos look something like this. Since parrying is also tied to dodging, you can even do DCS combos while simultaneously defending yourself, which makes this the quintessential combo technique to learn. Let's call this something flashy and over the top, like a DCS parry link. Back on the topic of aerial combat, the conflict here is quite simple. The player is only able to dodge once in the air before they start falling, or else the need for a chip at all would be mitigated by just wave dashing to the next island. Aerial finishers also trigger the falling state to avoid the same thing, meaning that we have to get very creative with the way we allow aerial combo extensions. Clearly, most enemies are on the ground because of something called gravity. We don't need to send enemies to the ground, so grounded combos are the default bread and butter. However, we do need to get most enemies into the air to begin an effective aerial assault. Action games have many instances of launcher moves, so we've got plenty of material to study. But what would make an effective launcher for Soul Volume? Well, the answer isn't as cut and dry as one may think. We first need to discuss Soul Volume's resource management. As a long-time fighting game player, I set out to design Soul Volume's intermediary battle mechanics like I would for a fighting game. So while it can look like a button-mashing fest on the surface, there's quite a few hidden techniques and resource management that needs to happen to get the most out of the combat system. Soul marks are this game's equivalent to a special meter, or bar, or magic points, whatever you want to call it. These little nodes will increase as you hit enemies with normal physical attacks, which include any light or heavy sword/combo attacks that don't fire any bullets. Looking right above these, your abilities equipped to your deck show a blue number corresponding to its soul mark cost. When enough soul marks are held, you're able to expend them for powerful options. I believe this to be a pretty fun way to gate more powerful abilities and main sources of healing behind forced aggression, as the player is not able to gain more soul marks without taking risks. Games like Bloodborne, Hollow Knight, and Street Fighter VI achieve this excellently, ensuring that players get the most out of interacting with the intentionally aggressive nature of the game and cash out the fruits of their labor in satisfying ways. In most action games, enemies that can be launched into the air tend to be rendered fairly useless until your air combo is done. So we need to ensure that launchers are abilities locked behind a soul mark cost, or just a small one at the very least, as a reward for engaging in risky close quarters combat. This avoids just continuously launching enemies into the air over and over again until they die. Alright, now we're left with two basic questions to answer. How do we best extend air combos, and how do we make a good launcher? Aerial combo extensions are tricky to say the least. There's a lot to wrap our heads around here. We need to ensure that the combos aren't too long, that they can't be used to reach really high places, that the enemy has some way to escape, that the cost I think a good starting point to solve this problem would be to find a combo extender in an existing game that fills a lot of our requirements. I've already brought up a lot of traditional fighting games and character action games, obviously, so let's look somewhere a little different.
Hey, it's me, Goku!
Man, if only I could extend my combos using some of my built-up resources, and if that combo extender also happened to be a really cool-looking evasive maneuver that I can do in neutral or during intense fighting, and if some enemies were able to do it back to me, you know, that would be really sick. Holy fucking shit. Yeah, that's right, I dug up Toriyama's grave and stole the vanish mechanic. Rest in peace, my sweet king, you left us too soon. The classic DBZ Tenkaichi Vanish seemed to fit all the criteria that we needed. A combo extender that costs resources, but also a tool that can be used in a variety of situations, which is something that I try to keep in mind for all soul volume mechanics. We can even do here what you can see in Sparking Zero, which is give this to enemies for those hype and frantic vanish offs. Like we discussed with the resource management, we'll make this a low cost option that the player has in their kit by default. No need for any extra bells or whistles to equip, just simple and clean. Pressing the sprint and dodge buttons at the exact same time will teleport the player directly behind the locked on enemy, which can be done both on the ground or in the air. On the ground, we can use this to panic dodge if our regular dodge didn't quite cut it, and in the air, we can use this to reset our combo sequence and loop it from the beginning for a longer combo. Now, to ensure that air combos aren't infinite, enemies now have the ability to tech out of combos within a certain threshold of hits. If we need to get back down to the ground quickly, we can even target a grounded enemy and instantly reset our position. I think this will make a fine addition to the player's arsenal. Alright, now it's time to launch, something that I think about every single day. Let's go through the process of making a new ability from scratch. First off, of course, we'll just copy all the logic from a different ability because no one would ever know. Then we find a nice animation to use. Luckily, this game has been in development for 4 years now, so let's just find a launcher animation that we used 2 years ago and slap it right back in. It's really just as simple as that. For the cost of 1 soul mark, that ability will advance towards an enemy and take both it and the player into the skies. What happens after this is pretty self-explanatory, really. Just start mashing the fuck out of those buttons. Doing a little bit of math here, if each soul mark takes 5 physical hits to fill up, the player can do exactly 1 full air combo to gain a soul mark, trigger flashpoint, which is what we're calling this now, and loop their air combo. At around the end of a second air combo, most enemies would be able to tech out, giving them invincibility until they hit the ground again. Ember Flip, our new launcher ability, is pretty weak and simple, all things considered, but we can use this as a framework for some crazier and flashier launchers later on in the game. Granting some of our once grounded only abilities some new usage in the air, we now have a more fleshed out aerial combo system that appears closer to the freeform nature of the grounded combat, which brings it all full circle. This training room you're watching is free to play on our Patreon. If you'd like to try our expansive open world on the other hand, our membership tiers grant access to monthly or weekly playtest builds of the full game all the way up to its official release. So you can literally go play it like right now. Supporting development on this massive undertaking of a game would be greatly appreciated. Consider joining our Discord as well for daily updates and some exclusive behind the scenes stuff. Make sure to come back next week for more Soul Volume. You better.